Okay, let's try this again. Here we go. Well, when we left my Uncle Bill Yarrows, he was hunkered down in a crypt in Italy, surrounded by German forces. This was during World War II. They were completely surrounded and they were scared because, it wasn't a good thing. They were outnumbered and they were surrounded. And they called for help, but they didn't know when or if help would get there. And they were trapped in this crypt for the night. That's where they went, was into this crypt with the dead bodies. And I actually saw, my Aunt Verna showed me a picture that he had taken in the vicinity of this crypt where you could actually see German tracer fire. So you could see how far away the Germans were. You could actually tell because they fired tracer shots into the air to signal for more of their own people to come and back them up, where they went in and got the Allied troops that were in there. And so, they had good reason to be frightened. They took refuge in this crypt with the dead bodies because that was the only place they could take refuge. And it was full of fleas. So they spent the night getting bit by fleas, and that was no fun. But anyway, somehow, I don't know how it happened. Um, from the way my Aunt Verna told the story, she figured it was a miracle. And who knows, maybe it was. But somehow Allied forces did arrive. Support for my uncle and his people did arrive, and they were able to get them out of there. And really, that was really something because they were very close to being taken out by the Axis forces, by the Germans and Italians. So they got out of that anyway. That's just another story that I can recall that I heard about my great uncle Bill Yarrows in the war. And yeah, it was quite a thing anyway. But of course, he was awarded medals and so on after his service. He was, and um, I ended up inheriting those medals. Unfortunately, I don't have them anymore because in 1988 I was the victim of a break-and-enter robbery, and my coin collection was stolen, and my uncle's war medals were in with my coin collection. So that's what happened there. You have to pardon me if I'm a little bit not as good tonight at telling stories. I got a bad toothache, and I've got mosquitoes buzzing around me here too. This camper's full of mosquitoes right now. So I'm not at my best. But anyway, I just wanted to share all that with you. I'll tell you the story of how I inherited my uncle's war medals and what all happened with my uncle after the war and my Aunt Verna. My uncle, Uncle Bill Yarrows, great Uncle Bill Yarrows, after the war he bought a farm in Jasper, Ontario, and he lived there. Him and my Aunt Verna lived there for many years, and he was a farmer. And in 1968, they sold the farm and they moved into Perth, in the town, and they rented basically the back half of a house. It was like an apartment, but it was like a little house on the back of a house. And they lived there. They lived there together until 1978 when Bill died of cancer. Bill actually had to sell the farm because he had cancer. He was sick in 1968. I was never at the farm. I was actually born in 1968, so I was never at the farm. But I did visit my aunt and uncle sometimes when they lived in Perth. I did actually visit them. I thought a great deal of both of them. They were very special people to me. And I remember my uncle being quite sick, especially towards the end of his life. I never knew him as a healthy man. I mean, he had cancer the whole time I knew him. And in 1978, when I was 10 years old, my Uncle Bill, he passed away. The cancer finally finished him. And the last time I saw him was 2 weeks before he passed away in 1978. I was 10 years old. And we went over to his house, or to him and my aunt's house, for a visit. Myself and my dad and my mom and my baby sister at the time, Michelle. She was just like a year old or whatever. She was there too. And of course, I'm standing there and I'm admiring his war medals. He had his war medals in a kind of a box there mounted on the wall, a little display box. And I was admiring them. And Uncle Bill, the cancer was all through him. He could barely speak. He was in terrible shape, He was real close to dying, only 2 weeks away. And I was standing there admiring his war medals, just looking up at them on the wall. And Bill, he came over and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Do you like those, boy?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." And he said, "I'll leave those to you." And those were the last words he ever said to me. And he did leave them to me, and I had them for 10 years until they were stolen in this break-in. Anyway, so they're gone, but it's too bad because they were entrusted to me, and unfortunately, I lost them, even though it was a break-in. It's not like I took them somewhere and forgot where they were or anything, but still, they were lost while they were in my possession, and I do feel bad about that, But that's the story anyway there. My Aunt Verna lived until 1994. In fact, I was the last one of our family to see her alive because I was at the hospital to visit her the day she died. And she died from cancer as well. Yeah, that was in 1994. And over the years, I used to go and visit Verna, and she'd show me the pictures, the old pictures from the farm and everything. And she was always really proud of her husband, of my great Uncle Bill. And she was an awful nice lady, and she had a lot of heartache in her life, especially in her young life. And yeah. And Uncle Bill was a very gentle man. It's hard to imagine him really in a war because he was such a gentle person. And he was a very gentlemanly kind of a person, too. Just a very kind-hearted and very dignified and just a very nice man, anyway. And it's funny, Bill had a pet ocelot cat. And I don't know why, but in the 70s, for a while, there was this fad where people owned these ocelot cats. And I don't know why anybody would want one myself, because they were vicious. They were hard to handle. And this ocelot cat, though, was pretty much bonded to Bill. And in fact, my Aunt Verna couldn't handle it at all. It used to fly across the room and bite her sometimes. But it was good with my Uncle Bill anyway. And when Uncle Bill went into the hospital 3 days before he died, that ocelot cat laid down, and this is true. I know for a fact that this happened. You're going to laugh at me probably, but this did happen. That ocelot cat laid down on Bill's spot on the couch where Bill always sat, and the cat stayed there for days. It stayed there for 3 days. And on the day that Bill died, that ocelot cat got off the couch and it let my Aunt Verna know that it wanted out. And Bill died in the hospital. But the ocelot cat wanted out. So Verna opened the door and let the ocelot cat out. And that cat laid down on the step outside the door and passed away. The cat died on the step the same day Bill died. And yeah, it's funny how things work anyway. But that's just kind of a neat story to go along with that. Um, like I say, my dad, of course, he was pretty broken up when Bill passed away because him and Bill were very close. And I know it's one of the few times in life I ever saw my dad cry. He was so upset about it. Of course, he didn't live to see Verna pass away because he died in 1988 and she lasted until 1994. She was, like I say, a very kind-hearted lady, very tough lady, but not in a bad way at all. Just tough in the sense that she had survived, and she had managed to make some sort of a life for herself despite adversity. So anyway, those are the stories. I don't know, like I say, it's mostly for my family that I'm telling these stories, but anybody can watch them and anybody's welcome to watch them. And I truly hope that anybody who watches them gets something out of them. And I apologize for all these broken up videos. My phone is not really, the memory on my phone isn't all that great. I deleted a bunch of stuff and the phone's still running after over 11 minutes now, so that's good anyway. I guess I should have done that in the first place. So that's my mistake. Anyway, I hope y'all have a good night, and I'll talk to you later.